it's been really interesting. We took a little bit of a hiatus, over the course of the summer for the podcast, expecting that when we came back, things would be completely different, and yet they seem to be exactly the same.
I know. Who would have thought we'd still be at it?
What will you do when your money works for you? Welcome to the TechGirl Financial podcast with your hosts, Victor and Kim Gaxiola. From the home office in California, here is Victor and Kim.
What a year, 2020, the start of season 4 of the TechGirl Financial podcast. And thus far, let's see, if you're keeping your bingo card, if you might have won if you had global pandemic, social unrest, record-breaking heat.
What else can we throw in there?
Contested elections.
Didn't we have like a fire tornado?
Fire tornadoes, locust, a plague in South Lake Tahoe. I mean, bingo. And we're not talking straight line. We're talking blackout. I mean, it has been quite a year. And so, I think if you've been listening to the podcast over the course of the last 3 seasons, and if you have, thank you, you're going to know that we are eternal optimists. So despite pandemic and social unrest and everything that's been going on, there are still these slivers of hope and these golden, those silver seams, right, of good. And so we are so excited about the 4th season because we are going to build this entire season around things to be excited about.
And guess what? We still have our humor. And I think that is our savings grace through this all. So everything hard happens for me in the even years. And this has been one that I could never have planned. Mm-hmm. Truly. I thought that the hardest thing about this year was going to be that my daughter was going to go away to school.
And did she go away?
Nope.
Nope. She's upstairs. She's going to be doing her freshman year remotely, as I think most of the country, or much of the country, is doing the remote learning education. Noah started high school. He's a high school freshman, of course, online, as everybody else is. And so it's been really interesting. We took a little bit of a hiatus, over the course of the summer for the podcast, expecting that when we came back, things would be completely different, and yet they seem to be exactly the same.
I know. Who would have thought we'd still be at it? I mean, I remember in some of our podcasts from last season, us saying things in our education like, who's to say the kids aren't going to be remote learning in the fall again? And who's to say that colleges aren't even going to open up in the fall? And oh my gosh, I never believed that was going to come true. I just thought that was a worst case scenario.
So if there was one word to describe 2020, I'd say it's been fluid, and there's so much uncertainty. And as you know, the financial markets don't like uncertainty, and yet they've recovered. I mean, just recently, I think we surpassed the February highs. And so we typically don't talk much about the financial markets, but the reality is that over the course of about 175, 178 days, it went from the market top to the bottom and then back. That's an incredible turnaround. Usually it would take about 4 years or so for that kind of bounce back, if you will, especially if the S&P has suffered over a 20% decline in any single year.
Right. That is amazing. If we pull apart the onion, I could say that it's probably 5 stocks that brought it up to the level that it is right now. And there are still 95% of that index for the S&P 500 that are below February highs. But still, we definitely have come back quite a bit. And when I saw everything happening, I was thinking we were in for a 2 to 4 year term for recovery, and I'm so happy that has not been the case.
Yeah, and a lot of the things that have contributed to that, if you've been paying attention, and of course we do, and we listen to these different analysts and from the different organizations that we subscribe to just to understand exactly what's happening in the financial markets. But big, huge stimulus from the federal government, interest rates at, down interest rates, so that's, of course, creating a lot of easy access to capital. You mentioned, the recovery, a lot of that being led by technology, which is one of our favorite areas. And of course, taking a look at, people staying home, they're actually saving money and they're focusing on their finances. And we didn't see the same levels of panic we might have seen at the last drop during the financial crisis that took place because of the housing market this go around. So, there was almost like a more mature approach to this and understanding that traditionally the markets have bounced back. And despite the fact that we went through a couple of months of somewhat panic in many cases, it did recover.
We've bounced back in the markets, and it looks like not much has happened since the beginning of the year. But that isn't to say that so much has changed. And for millions of people who have become unemployed, and I don't know how many thousands of businesses that are not going to make it through this pandemic because the economy is still shut. That still exists. And I want to recognize that because for a lot of people in all of our communities, they are being hurt hard by that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, when it comes down to it, the market is only one segment. And, I'm happy. The optimism in me is more stemming from the fact that I think that we thought that this was going to take a lot longer for it to return. And so when you look at people's values in their 401ks or in their retirement accounts, for those that, made some adjustments or rebalanced or maybe even didn't do anything, a lot of that has returned to what it was before. So if you take that off the table, there's other issues, definitely not having a job or perhaps restaurants and businesses that are closing. But part of really what we're looking at and talking about in this fourth season is exactly that, is that necessity is the mother of invention. And so the theme is really around innovation. And so this is the area that we really want to focus on because we work in the area of technology. It is TechGirl Financial. Many of the people that we work with and serve are women in technology and their families. And so this is really in their wheelhouse. And throughout all of this, it has been one of those things that's been very positive as a shining light and as a beacon that despite, everything kind of crumbling around us, that it was in many cases technology that kept the wheels of industry moving. It kept businesses happening. It kept the schools open, albeit in a very different mode, but it kept them open. People went to work from home. And as a result, they used technology to connect. And what's been really interesting is the evolution that's taken place, whereas back in March and April, so much of this was reactionary that people have now adjusted to it. Now they're finding ways to work with the technology and to communicate in this new world. And so what I am really excited about is what's this going to mean in the future is about how we return to work.
Absolutely. And we are in the first quarter, I will say. If this is a football game, you have 4 quarters. We're in the first quarter still. We are not going to see the impacts of innovation on that necessity. If you say necessity is the mother of an innovation, we're just figuring out what all those problems are and starting to create solutions. We said in our last podcast how excited we were to see what happens. We thought something was going to happen in education. And I'm in a Facebook group on pandemic pods. And I am so amazed at what is going on and how quickly the comeback is to educate our kids. And so, that's just one area. And, that was K through 12, not, let alone I know crazy things are going on in college. I've seen articles where they're spending millions of dollars on new technology, and that is about innovation and about education online. So, wow, there's so much to be thinking about here. And again, first quarter of the situation, it reminds me of when 2008, 2009, and we happened to be moving from Illinois to California. And I thought at that time in 2008, I don't know how we're ever going to afford real estate in this market. And it was in 2010 that we were able to buy our first house. So keep in mind that things are changing, but they're taking a little bit of time. And you're just starting to hear little whisper sessions going on about vaccines and about different ways to do education, drones that may be delivering our food. There's so many exciting things going on that, again, it just makes me reminiscent to say, we are celebrating October 18th of this year. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary of being independent. Well, that was when we left Wells Fargo Advisors and joined Cambridge Investment Research as our broker dealer. And happiest move I have made. So when I think about 10 years ago, what we were excited about in innovation, that was like really the shared economy, and Lyft and Uber were so major, Airbnb, and how they've made my vacation life so much better. What's going to come out of this? You know, we will be seeing that over time.
There's a lot to unpack there, and that's exactly what this fourth season. So this first episode is an introduction to what you can expect in the months to come. All we could say is basically fasten your seatbelts, because we are going to explore not only the world of innovation, but its effect on, different facets in different areas, whether it's health, transportation, business, school, education, medicine, right? There is so many exciting innovations that are taking place right now, and part of it is not only us talking about it, but bringing in the facts and figures and perhaps even some guest speakers to the podcast to talk about their areas of expertise.
That's right. So if you are out there and you are a woman of tech and you are really excited about innovation that's going to change our lives in the next 10 years, we invite you to contact us.
Absolutely. We're always looking for guests, and especially if you do work in the area of technology, love to talk to you about what you're working on, what exciting things are taking place in your organization, how has the work life changed as a result of the pandemic, and what kind of adjustments are you making to improve your own lives. So if you're interested in being part of the podcast or have some insights you'd like to contribute, please send me an email at victor@techgirlfinancial.com. Kim, it feels like what's old is new here doing the podcast again. It's so much fun. But so it feels like we're doing all the same things, but we're not anymore, right?
I know, I thought, how would we come up with content season after season? And it's amazing how time changes and we're able to roll with it, and new things happen in our lives that create opportunity to talk about. So, not only are we going to talk about innovation, but I think it's important to talk about how we are all being impacted by COVID in terms of, let's get some good ideas. How do we stay motivated in this environment? How are we handling our mental health? And how are we handling work-life balance? One thing I've always known, having my office here at home, is I could work 24/7, but I've created boundaries. So what else is going on? And so there's a lot of conversations that we get to talk about.
Absolutely. And probably one of the biggest conversations, because it's starting and it's heating up, is the upcoming election. And so as you can expect, what can people expect with an upcoming election?
Let me look at my crystal ball. Expect volatility. I know that's not the answer you wanted to hear. Maybe you wanted me to say your favorite candidate is going to win and your least favorite candidate is going to lose. I know you want me to say that, but I have no clue. It's 50-50 this time. And all I can say is the market is going to be unpredictable, and it may go up a lot, it may go down a lot. But all we know is that I expect short-term volatility.
Yeah. So we've got a bumpy ride ahead. And so what are you doing then to prepare people, or what are you recommending people do in preparation for a bumpy ride?
Well, it's all about financial planning and having conversations. And so I am actually at this point not recommending anything, just doing the research as to where I want to be with a segment of our clients' portfolios in order to weather volatility, whether it's up or down.
That's the best answer. That's the right answer. And if I had a bell, I'd go ahead and ring it. So as you can tell, season 4 is going to be an exciting journey as we go through and talk about innovation and a bunch of different subjects and the impact of innovation. As you can see, it's one of my favorite words right now. So it's obviously something that we're very excited about. We hope you'll be part of the journey with us. And as always, if you do have suggestions, send me an email. You can also find us on Twitter and use hashtag AskTGM.
I'm looking forward to getting started on producing this content because I think there are going to be some great conversations.
So we'll close by saying thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And I didn't think we was going to have to do this, but stay safe, stay kind. Bear hugs
later.
See ya.
If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future shows, please send an email to victor@techgirlfinancial.com or join the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag AskTGF. We also encourage you to follow us on the TechGirl Financial page on Facebook and connect with us on LinkedIn.
Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, a registered investment advisor. TechGirl Financial and Cambridge Investment Research, Inc. are not affiliated companies. Discussions in the show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions.